My name's Elia Locardi, and I'm a full-time travel and landscape photographer. I've teamed up with Fstoppers and the filter company Nisi to produce 8 unique mini tutorials to show you how I use these filters as I travel the world looking for the perfect photograph. Subscribe to the channel below to join this adventure, and welcome to Puerto Rico.
Welcome to the next installment of our 8-part video tutorial series on long exposure photography and filters. Not all of these locations are as easy and straightforward to get to. Sometimes you find yourself sort of bushwhacking or kind of hiking down slightly treacherous and or overgrown areas before you get to that sweet spot. As I continue to explore the eastern coastline of Puerto Rico, you can see it's getting much more interesting. I believe in the last lesson, I said we were gonna ramp up the complexity a little bit. So this looks great from the top. There are like 4 spots right here that I just wanna stay up here in the comforts of this high vantage point and shoot it, but I also wanna go down and check it out. So we're gonna ramp up the complexity, not only just with the composition and shot, but actually getting down to this location in the water and setting things up. But first things first, I need to safely get my gear down there, and this weighs a little bit more than 40 pounds. It's not that bad to climb down here. The rock is really grippy, but I'd rather not do it with the weight on my back. So I think I'm actually gonna try to lower it down with a rope. It looks like that kind of protruding rock right there is gonna give me the best purchase. So I'm gonna take a minute and set this rope up, then I'm gonna attach the gear, and hopefully, hopefully nothing goes wrong. Now that the tricky and a bit dangerous part is done, it's time to scout a little bit. I've never been down here. I can't tell how deep this is. I'm just gonna walk around with my camera, nothing else, just to kind of figure out where I can and cannot stand and kind of try to figure out the shot that I want before I come back to the beach and get all loaded up with filters and a tripod. Let's see what we can do. This spot looks pretty cool. Check out these few frames. I kind of moved around this rock. So this is a strong contender, but now I want to see if I can get over on that other side and see what it looks like to be closer to that big spire, which is super interesting. All right, I really like this spot. I have no idea if I can get a tripod up here. There's a shelf that falls off to like 20 feet there, and the swell's coming over, and it's there's not a lot of purchase, but I'm gonna try. Take a look at this shot. A lot of potential here, palm trees on the left, rocks in the lower right. This will be really interesting with the polarizer to see the foreground. I really like it. I think this is where I'm gonna at least try. Now it's time to filter up.
Throughout this series, Nisi and Fstoppers are giving away over $600 worth of filters and tutorials. If you want to enter all 8 contests, make sure you click the link in the description below every time a new video is released.
This is a situation where I need to be really choosy about my gear. I need to know where I want the shot and then what I need to capture it, because I'm not going to walk out there with my bag. I don't want to walk out there with all the filters because that's a recipe for more disaster. So I know that I want something between 2 seconds or 4 seconds for those streaks. We've done that. Up to 30 seconds to soften it out. Really depends on the way that the swell's coming in. I also know that I want to polarize. So that kind of eliminates a few filters. So the easiest thing to do would be to go out there and screw on one of these filters, or bring 2 of them with me. I could bring a 6-stop and a 10-stop, and that's gonna give me the ability to get all of the exposure times that I want, but this won't have a polarizer on it. The only filter, and it's a specialty filter that I have that's screw on and polarizer, is 6 stops. 6-stop works for a lot of situations, but I'm probably gonna need that 10-stop a little bit more to drag the shutter, so this isn't gonna work. So that leaves me with the square filter system. So if I was gonna bring one thing, it would be the filter holder with the polarizer on it, and then I'm gonna bring a 10-stop filter I'm gonna put on it. I'm also gonna bring a 6. And again, we've seen this before in the other videos, but you line up these 3 notches in the V7 system, and you want to find the rotation here and just kind of lock it down with your hand so you can rotate that into place, and just kind of clicks right into place. Just screw this onto the front of the lens first. That's good. Polarizer spins, everything's secure. Let's go ahead and get this guy on there now. So when you buy individual filters, they actually come in these little cases. It's really, really convenient. Right now, the natural night filter's in here, so what I'm gonna do is put one on the camera, one in here, and then just slide it in my kangaroo pocket, and that's gonna minimize the gear I have to take out there. Need a couple things. I just wanna make sure I have a good microfiber cloth, and I'm also gonna grab some of these pre-wet wipes. They just have a little bit of a drying agent on them. Salt's hard to get off of everything, so if you have these, you can just quickly kind of wipe and go. So here, this should work fine. Spare pocket, get all that stuff in there. They say these cameras are weather sealed, so, you know, there's that small comfort. First thing is this swell, once it comes in, it'll pick this right up, which isn't a problem if I hold it down, but I probably want to time my exposures. If I get really ambitious in 2 minutes, there's no way that this isn't going to move a little bit. So it's just something to keep in mind. If you see me just kind of hunker down here. The first thing I want to do though, before we talk about dragging the shutter, is talking a little bit about the polarization. Recording a little video here. Just go ahead and see the effect of the polarization here. I'm gonna go ahead and start spinning it, and there we go. You can see the reflections in the foreground right on the bottom. It's polarized so we can see that detail, and that's what it looks like without the polarization. You can take a look here. That's with no polarization. In other words, it's not rotated to the bottom. We're getting the reflections of the sky in the water. So if we rotate that a little bit more, now take a look at the difference. You can see now we have a little bit more transparency, visibility in the water. Nice polarized effect. Now let's start dragging the shutter. This is really a little bit more technical. Anytime that I'm shooting long exposure, I make sure that my tripod is completely level. In this case, the swell is coming over and trying to pick this tripod up off its feet. But at the same time, the water looks the best when that swell's coming in. So I'm doing my best to really put some weight down. Like I'm putting like 50 or 60 pounds down on this when these waves come through. So what I'm gonna do is kind of just keep this location, try some different exposures, time the swell, and we'll check out the results of the shoot after that. Light's falling off fast. Now I'm putting in the 6-stop neutral density. So I shot for a little while until the light faded off, and I think this one was my favorite. I like the way the water looks in the foreground. I think it has a nice balance with the composition. We can see the color in the foreground and everything. This is definitely the one I'm gonna choose. And that just about wraps up another lesson in this 8-part tutorial series about long exposure, sponsored by Nisi. If you enjoyed this episode, want to catch up on the other ones, or see what's to come, subscribe to the channel. And if you want to learn pretty much everything there is about landscape photography, check out fstoppers.com/store and take a look at photographing the world.